You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. It's great to have you again here today on part 2 of our Cabral HouseCalls. We'll be going through more of our community's questions like we do each and every weekend. Yesterday, I think we got to about 6 or 7 questions. I'm excited to see whose questions come through today. We're just about 5 to 6 weeks behind on your questions. If you write in at stephencabral.com/ask Cabral, I'm happy to take those on the show. Do remember that these are not health-based consultations. I can't go over your labs and all your lab numbers. I would love to. We're just not able to do that. This is not meant to be a consultation. What I want to do is to be able to answer your questions on maybe what's the best lab for you based on your symptoms, or are you on the right track with your healing-based process? Or if you're stuck somewhere, what would you like for advice? Or you're looking for a second or third opinion, favorite book to read on a topic, whatever it is, I'm happy to answer that. And I would love to be able to share any experience that I have with you on that particular topic. So always do feel free to write in. Just take a few weeks for us to answer it on the weekend house calls. They come in the order, they come in at the order they are received, but they also are answered in the order they're received. But remember, for pretty much same day advice, you can head on over to cabralsupportgroup.com. That's our free Facebook group, around 7,000 strong as of the date of this release of this podcast, and growing every single week. Why don't we just dive right into today's questions? If you're not familiar with it, I simply read aloud the question that came in. I have no prior knowledge of this question, and I want to just give you my raw answer as to what I am thinking as the question comes in and what I've seen based on many years in private practice and working with many individuals with these same types of issues. All right, so let's dive into today's show. The first question today, I'll pull up today's date. Today is going to be, all questions will be at stephencabral.com/1339 if you want to follow along with those questions. If there are longer questions, I will simply abbreviate them, but you'll be able to follow along at that particular webpage, stephencabral.com/1339, so that we can get in as many questions as possible. All right, first question is from Dar, D-A-R. Hi, sorry you may need the entire podcast for these questions, LOL. Thoughts on Arnold Ehret, and you must have read his books. Had Bell's palsy, this is question 2, had Bell's palsy a while back, about 5 months ago. Why don't we go one question at a time? I don't think that we'll need the whole podcast, but let's go one question at a time. Arnold Ehret. Yes, he was he's one of the German naturopaths that I really enjoyed studying his work many years ago. He was the author of, so many books, but the books, the ones that are most famous that I at least remember that he wrote that in particular I enjoyed was his notes on fasting, the 36-hour fast, and also on the lymphatic system in general, and then his book that he became most famous for, which was called Mucusless Diet Healing System. I'm not sure if I've ever talked about it on a Friday review. Easy way to find out, I guess, is if we just go to stephencabral.com. Why don't I do that? That's where, again, you can look up a lot of these answers. This isn't an answer that I've spoken about before, so I'm happy to answer this in the podcast. But if we head over there, stephencabral.com/podcast, and I just type in mucusless, see if I can spell that correctly, we'll see if we can find it. Nope, no search results for mucusless. So I can recommend that book right now. It's called Mucusless Diet, and it's the Healing System by Arnold, and then it's Ehret, which is Ehret, believe he was born in the mid 1800s to late 1800s. I remember him when I was reading his work. Unfortunately, died at a very young age. I think he died in his mid 50s as well from a head injury. I mean, really unfortunate accident, because I would love to have seen another 30 years or so of his work. But unfortunately, he fell after one of his talks, slipped off a curb at night, I believe, and actually hit his head and died, which is tragic, especially for someone that was doing so much great work. But the reason why I say that too is I like to see how people's careers and knowledge and lives play out. He was a fairly young man, and I would still consider 50s as just midlife to me. I mean, that's you're just getting going. Your 20s are still fooling around. Your 30s, you're starting to get a little bit of knowledge in life. Your 40s, you're starting to implement that. In your 50s, you have some wisdom behind you. At least that's where I believe. I believe that it probably is for a lot of people. I'm not quite there yet. I'm not rushing it, but one day I hope to have some of that wisdom to look back on. When you get to 50, I think he was like 55, 56. So, he had about 2 decades worth of knowledge, because he started a little late in his career getting into health because of his own health issues. But all right, long story short, because I guess I am going on the whole podcast, it's a super short book. Basically, he talks about only eating fruit to cure disease. I talked a little bit about this before about, are humans meant to eat meat or not? I go through frugivore-based physiology, etc. Well, predominantly, if you eat fruit and then some leafy greens, that you're going to be able to better remove mucus from the body, work on the lymphatic system. And it's an interesting way to look at it. And you know what? It's a tough argument to fight, to be honest with you. Because if you think about it, before humans had fire, before humans could hunt with weapons, what would you be able to eat? That's always what I go back to. But I also see that that's not the only thing that they did eat. Humans scavenged, we can look at that all around the world for grubs and bugs and shellfish. And we know that high omega-3 shellfish, things like that, can be really, really healthy for us as well. So keep in mind a lot of his predecessors and those that he learned from, like Sebastian Neep, recommended what basically he does as well. Some nuts and seeds are in there too, but potentially a little bit of grains and a little bit of meat. And I think that, so my views are, yes, predominantly plant-based, like plant-based. That includes fruits and vegetables. And that's going to be what's best for most humans. So I'll talk about that more in the future. I have talked about it on previous podcasts. Your second question was, but by the way, I think he's great. A lot of people love Dr. Sebi. Well, before there was Dr. Sebi and his diet, there was Arnold Ehret, as well as Sebastian Neep and many others. I mean, Herbert Sheldon, etc. So anyway, everybody has a mentor, right? And so these are all great, great people. Okay, number 2 is this. I had Bell's palsy about 5 months ago, and every once in a while I get a weird twitch in my eye when I'm tired, and it seems to subside after 2 weeks. What do you recommend? I take B12, magnesium, thyroid support, omega, and zinc, fruit and veggie powder. Number 3, I feel pretty good and want optimal energy. What do you suggest? I work out regularly, just want to feel optimal. Once in a while, I feel tired, and once in a while, optimal energy, but I want that to be consistent. All right. So, Dar, I like where you're coming from. You're basically doing pretty well, but you still have a couple minor things here and there. I call that life. Sometimes you get a little less sleep or a little bit more stress, and your body has its tells, right? Well, your tell is that eye twitch. Now, that eye twitch could be some remnants of a herpes zoster, which means that your body probably needs a little bit more vitamin C, a little bit more zinc, maybe some L-lysine. I would simply tune back into my previous podcast on herpes, but you might also need more magnesium. So don't be afraid to add a little bit more in when you get less sleep or more stress. Now, in terms of what do you need to really be optimal, I can answer that when you show me your organic acids test and your hair tissue mineral analysis. So we call it our starter kit. And the starter kit tells you, do you have enough of these vitamins? Do you have enough of these minerals? And then also in terms of omega-3s, you'd run the omega-3 test to tell you exactly where you're at. So if not, if you don't have the data, well, then I do recommend doing daily foundational protocol level 2 or level 3. And that will give you everything you need on a daily basis. If you ever need more than that, well, that's when I recommend, after being on that for 4 to 6 weeks, the daily foundational protocol level 2 or level 3, then run your starter kit and you can see if those are meeting your daily requirements. Again, that's over at equilibriumnutrition.com. Overall, it seems like you're doing great, so keep up the good work. And again, I can't give you anything specific because I don't know anything specific that's really wrong with you. You seem like overall doing really well. All right, Cindy is up next. I actually just saw if this was a typo. There's 4 questions in a row from Cindy. All right, so Cindy, we're going to do our best to answer your questions today. I can't dedicate the entire podcast to a health consultation for you, but I appreciate you writing in 4 times in a row. I can see your passion around health. So let's ad-lib a little bit of these questions. It says that you started listening to the podcast in 2017. You have a lot of questions. Your husband recommended to send them in, which is great. So we commend him. You completed your food test and your DNA test, and let's see what you're asking. You're saying that what would benefit you and your family? You're an APO-2/3. Does this give an indication of one's Ayurvedic body type? I am some combination of Pitta Vata, but I'm curious if there's any correlation between the two. Thank you for all you do. Actually, I did a podcast on Ayurvedic body types and how they correlate to the APO-E types. But this is conjecture and it's theory and it's hypothesis, but Dr. Vasant Lad taught my mentor, Dr. Pete, that typically a Vata-based body type is more of the, let me go back, blood types. Sorry, this has nothing to do with APO-E. I apologize. But I'm on the track. So blood type A would be more of the Vata, and then the blood type O would be more of the Kapha, and the AB would be more of that Pitta. I know there's a B in there as well. But so not exactly what you're asking. The APO-E 2 and 3 does not have anything to do specifically with the Vata, Pitta, and those, except that we sometimes might say, well, maybe when you have a 4 in there, it lends itself more towards a Vata and inflammatory-based issues. And if you have a 2 more towards Kapha, which is an older form of the gene, but that is not necessarily true at all. And I certainly do not recommend that you base anything off of that at all. I would go back to episode 900, 907, 914, and 922 to find out about your Ayurvedic body type. Okay, so that's that on the first question. The second question is, hi, Dr. Cabral. Again, I have read your book, shared many of your shared wisdoms with my 4th grade students, and I listen daily. Thank you for taking your hardship and building a beautiful story that blessed others. I do have a request on the house calls. Even if you have covered the information, could you please give a summarized answer as well as the podcast to go back to? Question, how long do you think it would take for the average person's labs, let's say the big 5, to come back to normal, all within range, if the person did your CBO protocol, heavy metal detox, mold protocol, 4 detox protocols a year, level 2 or daily 3, and lived a healthy lifestyle? All right, great question, Sydney. And if you're not the same Sydney, that's okay too. We're going to keep answering these. So here's why. When I do these house calls, I look at my recorder. My recorder is a handheld recorder that the microphone plugs into. It's very simple equipment. And it tells me how long I'm spending for each question. And I don't like to spend more than about 3 minutes per question. Sometimes I go 4 minutes. That is a summary. So I just want you to know, if I were to talk on any one of these topics, it's a good 25 minutes. That's why I try to point people to previous podcasts that I've already done, because a summary alone takes me a minute or so. So that's why, say someone wanted me to go back and cover what are all the reasons why someone may have issues with alopecia. I can't give a summary of that because that's a 5-minute little summary talk all on its own. That's why I do that. I simply do it because I take what I do very, very seriously. And so that's why I won't give people a 30-second answer, and I won't give them just try a little D-ribose for energy. I won't do that, because I know that it's not going to benefit them. And I know the world that we live in Sydney, this is going down a rabbit hole, and I know it has nothing to do with you, so I'm not saying that this has to do with you, but we live in a world right now where people want me to give them the herb, the nutritional supplement. Like this just came from a house call. Not a house call, a coaching call I did with one of my coaching clients today. The man that the health coaching client, who's a man that one of my health coaches is working with, has erectile dysfunction. But he doesn't want to eat better. He doesn't want to exercise. He doesn't want to do a lot of things to work on erectile dysfunction. And the problem with that is that he wants just a supplement. Now, I could give him a supplement or two that would help with that. The problem is erectile dysfunction is a real red flag sign that something is off. Your hormones are imbalanced. Cortisol levels are most likely high. Stress levels are high. Most likely there's inflammation in those arteries and capillaries and potentially plaque building up. So yeah, I could put a Band-Aid on it and say, hey, here are the supplements. This is going to help with the erectile dysfunction. you're going to feel great. But the problem is this. Then it overlooks everything that's wrong that's causing erectile dysfunction. So I always want to apologize in advance. I refuse to give people, I absolutely just straight up refuse to give people the easy answer that will only work in the short term and cause massive issues in the long term, which is why some people don't want to hear the message that I have for them, because they want to just look at the keto diet and understand that they're going to lose the weight in 3 weeks, but not realize that it's going to destroy their metabolism and thyroid in the long term. So anyway, Cindy, I apologize about that, but that is not me. Okay, so I always have to give you my best. How long will it take for someone's levels to come back to normal? Well, most people, 16 weeks, 4 months, right? And that's because those red blood cells turn over in 4 months. If you are using our protocol given you by one of our health coaches because you ran a lab or so with equilibriumnutrition.com and it came with a coaching call as well as my recommendations, you're going to get all the nutrients you need. Now, ideally, you'll keep going with it, right? That's the whole point. And so you're going to see a great change every 12 to 16 weeks. And the reason is the body is constantly turning over those cells every 90 to 120 days. All right, next question from Cindy. Still in search of my root cause. As a health detective, I think it was gluten pushing my rain barrel throughout childhood. I would always get tonsillitis once or twice a year. All right, this is an extremely long question. So you are talking about how you got really stressed. It affected your thyroid. It became really bad when you were in college doing your dissertation. Let's see, you were on and off all sorts of different medications. Once you come off allergy pills, you begin to have all sorts of histamine-based issues. Okay, you've done various lab testing and your T3 numbers or thyroid can still be off. You use magnesium and zinc and methylated B vitamins. How do I get to my root cause? My medication dosing is crazy now. After taking 170 micrograms of thyroid medication for a decade, I'm now down in half, but it keeps changing. My question is, how do I get to my root cause? How do I know so I don't repeat the same mistake? Thank you, aloha, and blessing to you. All right, the way that you get to the root cause is that you lab test. If you have, and again, it never has to be with us, but there's only one way out. When you've been frustrated and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you have to know why. So find out why. Why do you have low thyroid? Is it high cortisol? Is that the reason why? Is it lower levels of electrolytes? Is it higher levels of arsenic or bromine or mercury or aluminum? Is it higher levels of copper than zinc? Is it, what else could it be? Lower levels of vitamin D? Is it dysregulation in blood sugar? Higher levels of emotional-based stress? What is the reason why? And usually there's multiple reasons. What about lower levels of iodine and selenium? Could be those reasons as well. I've done 4 big shows on the thyroid, detailing every single thing that it could be, whether it's Hashimoto's, low thyroid, or even Graves', all of them, like detailed to the T. And I invite you to go back and listen to those shows. But I can tell you this, what you do is, I always say, do it right and only do it once. You're going to get a lab test. And on that lab test, ideally, if you can only run 2, you'll run the thyroid adrenal hormone, and then you'll run the hair tissue mineral analysis. Well, if you could run one more, I'd run the organic acids test. You'll find out the data there. You will work the data. Whatever's low, you'll bring it back up. Whatever's high in terms of toxicity, you're going to bring it down. You're going to get on a protocol of natural-based nutrients that's going to boost the thyroid. As it boosts your thyroid, you'll work with your doctor to potentially wean off that thyroid medication. As you wean off the thyroid medication, you'll retest again. As you retest, you'll see if the nutrients are taking hold, so you need even less medication. And what you do is you try to wean again. 6 weeks later, you take the test just for the thyroid. Is your thyroid still holding strong? Yes, it is. Great. Now you try to wean off completely with your doctor. Again, I'm not telling you what to do from a medical perspective. I can't do that. That's out of my scope. You have to work with your endocrinologist or PCP on that. What I'm telling you is what we do every single day in our practice. I teach it inside of IHP, the Integrative Health Practitioner.org program. And this is what we do. I mean, this is what we are teaching other doctors and health coaches to do all around the world in order to help people heal. So that is how you do it. And then you have a blueprint for the rest of your life. All right. Cindy, one more question. It is the Cindy Show today. I can't, in the future, I'm not able to answer every question in a row from someone, but I'm always going to do my best for you. Dr. Brawl, what would cause pain in the bottom of the feet and behind the knees, specifically behind the knee when in bed? When I first started taking the citruslital drops, the knee pain started. It doesn't happen often anymore. However, the bottom of my feet hurt when I start walking. The tops will sometimes get terrible cramps. I use essential oils on it, but it can be painful. I have had the same pain in the bottom of my feet for years, but when I see my sisters get up from a seated position and start walking, I notice a struggle in each of us. I've read about Bartonella, both causing pain on the top of the feet and hurting one's thyroid. What do you think? Thank you again for all you do. Aloha and blessings. All right. Well, let's chat about this just for a second. For those who don't know what Bartonella is, we're looking at it as a form of bacteria. And you can get it from multiple different ways. But I believe off the top of my head, and you can research this as well, the only ways that are coming to me right now, I believe, are actually getting a scratch from a cat, typically stray cats. Another one, I believe, is from sand fleas. And the last one I remember being lice. There's most likely other ways to get it as well. It's not super common, but that's a possible way. In terms of directly affecting all of your sisters, it seems like there's probably some other correlation. And I wonder where that stiffness is coming from. And I would like to say, what's the balance in your minerals? Meaning, do you have a calcium buildup? That would certainly cause symptoms like this. Not enough magnesium to get the calcium to stay in the bones as well? Is the body feeling a little bit too inflamed and your inflammatory-based areas happen to be the feet and behind the knees? Could it be some type of bacteria that is kicked up and was actually caused some die-off with the citruslital drops? I would love to see if you were to do a detox, if that would start to subside. So what I would do is I would actually do a 14, 21-day detox, functional medicine detox, such as the one at Equilibrium Nutrition, or another functional medicine detox with a local health practitioner, and then see if that dramatically subsides because of the way that it would help with the inflammation. So hopefully that is helpful. What I would always look for is correlation. When it flares back up, okay, what did you do over the last couple of days? What was different food-wise, even if it's a healthy food? Did you increase exercise? Did you increase steps? Did you not get enough exercise or not enough steps? Always look for those correlations because that could be a dead giveaway for one of your particular triggers. All right, one more question. Let's see here. Sunny writes in, have you or your team ever come across someone suffering from type 1 diabetes, celiac disease, testicular cancer, and multiple sclerosis, plus autoimmune disease? And the answer would be yes. I'm not sure if there was more to it than that, but you're also, if you are interested in becoming a wellness client, again, we never push that on people, but you could always write in and always keep in mind our philosophy is, of course, we've worked with everyone under the sun because we're a virtual practice. We work all over the world. But keep in mind, you are not your disease. You don't have MS and autoimmune and celiac because you got the name of it. You can certainly have that in the genetic code, but you are someone right here. We're looking at, let's take away the type 1 diabetes for a moment. We're looking at cancer, celiac, MS, and autoimmune. I mean, we are most likely looking at someone here with multiple causal factors, creating massive inflammation in their body. What would that be? Well, if I were to just take one look at it, I would go back to the episode I just did last Wednesday. And that was, episode 1335. In episode 1335, it goes into all of the different gut-based issues and intestinal permeability and spilling of proteins that could cause the immune system to go absolutely haywire. Not because it's messing up, but because you asked it to deal with a whole lot of work, and that's why. So check out that episode on 1335 for why so many people have so many different types of dis-ease in their body, and also why some people don't ever seem to get well, lose the weight, or really fight the aging-based process. I'm telling you right now, you can fix this. And I really believe that you owe it to yourself to work with an integrative health practitioner, a functional medicine doctor or coach, someone that can help you get to the bottom of this. Because I'll tell you right now, there's someone out there suffering from something just like you, totally different family, right? And they are able and have been able to overcome that. And if they can, so can you. I truly believe that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into today's podcast. We'll be back with many more of your questions next weekend as well. And I do hope that you tune in tomorrow to our Motivation and Mindset Monday. It helps get the week started off right. Take care, everyone. Have an amazing rest of the day. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stephencabral.com/courses.